What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of Overwatch League commentary. I did want to apologize, guys. It's been quite a while since I was able to make a video and post anything on YouTube, and there's a variety of reasons for that, which I'm going to cover in a completely separate video. I also do want to apologize. This is older gameplay for Overwatch that I've used before, mainly because I've been finding it impossible to get any gameplay with this game given the current state of roll queue and the queue times. I actually jumped on tonight and played for like an hour and a half with some friends, and literally I think we got into maybe 3 or 4 games the entire time, and it was just awful. Roll queue has definitely made some interesting changes for this game. I think it's ruined quick play a little bit for myself and my friends just with the way the queue times are so long now. Even if you're in a full stack, you're still going to sit there and wait forever to get a game, and then you're most likely going to get matched against a completely unbalanced opponent, and it's just not very fun. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about today is coming into Season 3 of Overwatch League. And there's been a lot of cool stuff going on with Overwatch League, a lot of trades and a lot of people going to different teams. There's a lot of new faces on a lot of different rosters for next year. I know here in Atlanta we got a couple of new guys, mainly on the DPS end of things. We did lose Inlayer and also Daco for next season, so that kind of sucks, but we apparently got a bunch of new guys that are really good. At least that's what I've heard. Got some good new Korean DPS players, and it should be an interesting season. But I wanted to talk today about why Season 3 of Overwatch League is going to make or break the league going forward for the future. There's been some interesting things coming out in the last couple weeks, one of which was that the Overwatch League is really not profitable yet for a lot of the teams. That's really not a surprise if you know really anything about businesses and startup costs. The buy-ins for these Overwatch League teams were incredibly high, in some cases $20 to $50 million, depending on what season and what team. And you're not always going to make a profit when you first jump into a business venture like this. So it's very possible a lot of these teams are still in the red. They're most likely going to be in the red for at least 3 or 4 years, until they start turning over a profit from merchandise sales and ticket sales for homestands, and the kind of revenue share that they're getting from the league. You see this in college sports. You saw it a lot when the college football conferences realigned several years ago, and you had teams leaving to go to new conferences and having to pay buyouts to get out of their current conference contract. And then they got into their new conference, and they got into the TV revenue share from that conference, which was a lot better than their prior conference, but at the same time, they were still operating in the red for a couple of years from paying their buyouts and just having to pay to get into the new conference and everything else. So it's kind of a common thing, but it doesn't bode well for Overwatch League right now, especially with the state of the current game and how the metas just continually lag and are very stagnant. We're still stuck in an awful double shield meta, and there's been rumors popping on Reddit that it's not going to be changed. The new PTR patch is actually not going to go through until sometime in early 2020, when we thought it was going to come through here in December early on, which that's going to kind of suck. And they even said some of the contenders teams are even practicing on the current double shields patch. So this meta is going to stick around for a little bit longer, and that just highlights another issue similar to GOATS last season with Overwatch League. But what kind of spurred this decision to talk about this today was I saw a graphic on Reddit where someone has been going and making these world maps showing all the different travel routes that each team is going to be taking in Season 3. And when they announced Season 3 was going to be all the away games and the home games and the home stands for all these different teams, and there's going to be all the world travel and everything, I really started to think it was a bad idea for Overwatch League to go global so quickly. There's a lot of reasons for this. I think number one, the production just is not fully 100% done well at this point, and we saw in several of the homestands last year they had technical issues with production, and just overall they had a lot of problems, where they couldn't get the broadcast right. And now you're going to have these broadcast teams spread all over the world trying to do homestands in Korea and China and Europe and the United States, and I think logistically it's going to be an absolute nightmare for the crew and just in general also for the teams. And that's why I think Season 3 could be a very rough season for Overwatch League. Number one, the travel is going to be an absolute mess. I've been thinking about all the visa problems a lot of these teams were having in Season 1 and Season 2. Season 2, teams like the Chengdu Hunters, they started the season without several of their players because they couldn't get the visas cleared, and they took them several weeks to months to get those players over here into the States to be able to compete at the Overwatch League arena in California. there were lots of teams that had these visa issues all year. Season 1 it was bad, Season 2 it was bad, and now in Season 3 they're going to be traveling all over the world. You're going to need, a separate visa for each country you travel to. You're going to have to get all these logistical things cleared out of the way first. And given all the problems they had getting full teams into the United States without visa issues, I can only imagine how many problems they're going to have traveling around the world. The one map I saw also, it was the Seoul Dynasty, and it was like within a 4-week span, it's like they had to travel from Korea to Dallas, Texas, back across the ocean to China, and then back across the ocean to Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, this travel is going to be absolutely nuts for some of these teams. It's going to be crazy. And that brings you to the other big problem that Overwatch League has had is players burning out, players retiring early, players talking about how it's too stressful, how the practice schedules and everything is just so hard to keep up, and it can just be really difficult at times. Well, that's about to increase 100-fold because now you're going to be putting these kids from this high-stress environment onto an airplane multiple times a week, flying them around the world. They're going to be away from home for a long time. I know a lot of these kids don't like to travel necessarily. We've seen them have issues with the airlines before. And it's going to add a whole new layer of stress and a whole new layer of logistics on top of everything. These teams are going to have to do an incredible job of managing mental health this season for a lot of these players, because I think burnout has been a huge issue in Overwatch League so far, and it's only going to get worse when you bring all this travel into the equation. It's going to be a huge nightmare. Not to mention the obviously visa issues that I mentioned a few minutes ago are probably going to persist and be a problem. So I see a lot of attrition in this season. I see a lot of players that have been in the league for the last 2 seasons are probably going to be retiring. It wouldn't surprise me. It's just going to be really hard, I think, with all this travel that's going to be going on for every single team going all over the world. It's going to have a huge impact. The other thing I think we have to be somewhat wary of is the whole situation that's going on in China as well with Hong Kong and obviously the protests and a lot of things that are going on with that. We've seen in the last month or so exactly how Blizzard has handled this, and they've not done a great job of it, and we've actually seen them take a lot of flack in the last couple of months for the way they've handled their players talking about Hong Kong and other things. I'm not going to get into that on this video. That'd be for another time. But you have 3 Overwatch League franchises that are in China. And as I mentioned before, the visa issues are already going to be a problem. But I'm thinking here now, I'm only imagining, like, given how sensitive China is about any type of criticism, about anything that's said against them, and just how much Blizzard is already, like, bowing to them on some issues. What happens if a player, if a coach, like, says the wrong thing about China or makes a pro Hong Kong statement, or even something like in private or off the cuff where they get caught on a hot mic, or they get ratted out by somebody else? Like, what happens if China decides to just say, well, this player or this coach is not welcome in the country? Because we've seen this. Or they say this Overwatch League team is not welcome in the country. What is Blizzard going to do if that becomes a problem? Are they just going to say, oh, you have to forfeit the match this week because your team is not allowed to travel to China? So I think that's an issue that not really anyone has talked about yet. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that whole situation going forward. But just a lot of things I think about Season 3 are going to be a big-time challenge for Overwatch League. If Overwatch League can get through Season 3 and they can survive and they can still have a good fan base, I think the league is going to be good for long term. But this is going to be the biggest speed bump, I think, for the Overwatch League. The other thing too is the stale meta. If we get stuck in another stale meta like we did with GOATs forever, like if Double Shield sticks around for a while, or whatever comes after Double Shields, which inevitably everyone is going to hate the meta, because everyone has hated the meta since Dive, no matter what it is. Everybody's like, we need a new meta, and then they just absolutely hate whatever the meta becomes. So yeah, whatever, if there's a stale meta again, like Ghosts, and they start losing the player, not the player base, but I guess the player base in a way, kids playing Overwatch now, but just in terms of the viewer base on Twitch and their other streaming platforms, we got roll queue forced on us basically because everyone was tired of GOATs and people were stopping, watching Overwatch League, so they had to do something to get rid of GOATs in the Overwatch League, so they forced the 2-2-2 meta. If we get something like that, it's going to be really tough for them to keep interest going, especially with all the travel and all the other issues I think they're going to have to deal with this season. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I just wanted to kind of actually just get back on the horse and make a video. It's been a while since I've been able to get anything out, and I just wanted to give it, a little bit of a discussion on this. What I think is going to be a huge season for Overwatch League. Good or bad, it's going to be very interesting to watch. I'm excited to see how Atlanta does after they finished top 6 last season and had a nice run and even managed to beat the San Francisco Shock, in the final rounds of the playoffs before getting knocked out. But it was a good season overall for Atlanta, and I think they're going to be a pretty solid team next year as well. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this down below, if this is even anything you've thought about or considered, or what your thoughts are. It'd be great to hear from you guys. Like I said, it's been a while since I made a video, so I always like interacting with the comments, so feel free to leave those down below. I'll be doing a video a little bit later to explain what's been going on in the last couple months, just lots of stuff going on in my life, and what we're going to be doing going forward with the channel and gaming and photography and all kinds of other stuff. So anyways, guys, thanks as always for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you again next time.